afterwards. Okay, now here we go. We're continuing. We're finishing, God willing, the speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1991 regarding Tisha B'Av, and also Tu B'Av, Tetvav B'Av, which it says in the Mishnah and right in the end of Tainit that it was the happiest day of the year. That and Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur was happy because everybody got forgiven for their sins. And this day, it says, was happy because it was a day that the five whatever good things happened. A lot of good things happened, and one of them is that was the Shidduchim day. That's the day that they made matches. Young men, eligible men, they went and met eligible women to decide if they wanted to get married or not. So there was the matchmaking day. And so that explains the whole thing. So in any case, it's a happy day. So Tisha B'Av is ostensibly the most sad day, the saddest day, most unhappy day of the year. And Tu B'Av, which is just 6 days later, is the happiest day of the year. So the Rebbe pointed out to us that, in fact, Tisha B'Av, if you look inside of it, is really happier than Tu B'Av. It's really happier. Why? Because that's the day that the temples were destroyed in order to build something better. So they weren't really destroyed for the sake of destruction, and that was not the end. It was for something better. Something better should come up. It's almost like a child growing up, right? He loses his youth, but it's for something better, that he can have experience and he can be more mature and he can be more practical and more productive in the world, and etc., beneficial to others. So you lose one thing, but it's not really a loss. It's really just building one thing on the other. So the third temple, it says the day that the temple was destroyed, that was the day the Moshiach was born. That's the day Moshiach was born. Moshiach was that there was some Gentile that was plowing whatever was what he heard his cow moo, and he said, "Oh, the temple of the Jews has been destroyed." And then immediately it mooed again. They said, "No, this is the day when the Mashiach will arrive. The Mashiach has been born. Mashiach has been born." In other words, the reason that God destroyed the temple was, even though that externally it's a terrible thing, but internally it was a very good thing, which we haven't seen yet, and we're hoping to see any moment now. It's been a pretty long, but the fact is that everything that happens is really good or for the good. We'll realize that it's really good in itself, everything, because everything that happens, God makes it happen. So, of course, you've got what any normal person should have from this a million questions, which I do, but those questions won't get us down. It just increases our curiosity. How can this possibly be good? How can the Holocaust be good? How could it possibly be good? That should, and not only our curiosity, but also our impatience to get the answer. Not to get the answer. When is Mashiach going to come and explain all this stuff? All the tragedies that happened to the Jews, the destruction of the temple. But the Rebbe is assuring us that there is an answer, and it is good, and it's something which we, with our little inexperienced and sensitive minds, cannot possibly understand. So we should take the destruction of the temple seriously, but not too seriously. I mean, maybe here's the time to tell you a very interesting story. And there's a book in Chabad which is called Sefer HaMinhagim, the book of customs. I think I even have it here. Here it is, the book of customs. Here, see. Sefer HaMinhagim. This is the book of the customs of Chabad. Right? Every group has Judaism has their own customs. Sephardic Jews have their customs, and the Literature Jews has their customs, and we have our customs. So the customs. So over there in the customs, it brings a story which has nothing to do with customs at first glance. Just brings a story, and it's a very practical book, very cut and dried, book of laws and the things that we do in uniquely in Chabad. And all of a sudden it brings a story. What's the story that it brings? That the Rebbe of Ruzhin, right? The Rebbe of Ruzhin, he came in one day, Rebbe Ruzhin, yeah, he came in one day to his into his synagogue. That day happened to be Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is like we said, the most serious day of the year. But the Hasidim, they didn't take it so seriously. The Hasidim said that it's a very bad thing to be sad. Worst thing to be sad. Worst thing to be sad. So Yom Tisha B'Av, they took the day seriously. Of course, they took the day seriously, but they didn't act in a sad way. So there was all sorts of different customs and all sorts of different things that Hasidim did. And anyway, what they did is that they put a net on the ground in front of the door, not in front of the door, behind the door. Anyone who came into the synagogue, as they would step onto this net, and the net was attached somehow or other to these ropes, and they would pull the ropes up. And whoever was stepped in would be flipped up into the air, lifted up, would be caught in the net, and would be dangling up there. And of course, they put this net, they knew the Rebbe was going to come in at, let's say, 9 o'clock or whatever. So anyone who came in before that, they would lift them up in the net, right, in the net. And then they would take the net down, whatever, 15 minutes before. That I'm adding that part about taking it down. Anyways, it was the net. And the Rebbe came in early. They didn't know the Rebbe was going to come in. And the Rebbe of Ruzhin was a very holy person, very, very holy person, tremendously wholly connected, to inner realities, secrets by him were revealed. So he was living in a true world, and he was connected to that world. And he came in on the serious day, and head bowed down, and he stepped on this net, and they pulled him up. They didn't realize it was the Rebbe, and they pulled the net up. And there was the Rebbe hanging up. That suddenly somebody realized, wait, we did it to the Rebbe. We hung the Rebbe. And so they let him down. And the Rebbe came out, and he said, lifted his eyes to heaven, and he said, Master of the universe. Oh, let me just. If your children don't know how to honor your holiday, Tisha B'Av, so take it back from them. We don't need this holiday of Tisha B'Av, right? You see that we're not respecting the holiday, so take it back from them, right? Like if a father gives a son a new garment or something and he wrecks it up, so I'll take the garment away. You're not going to. We're taking your car back. We regret that we bought you a new motorcycle. We're taking it back. So same thing, God, you gave us this holiday Tisha B'Av. Take it back from them. In other words, send the Moshiach, build the temple, and take this holiday back. So what this story is doing in this whole book of laws, of customs, so it's coming to tell us that Tisha B'Av is internally a happy day. Externally, we have to fast. We have to do, what it says. You have to be serious. It's a serious day, and you shouldn't. A Jew should never be like lighthearted and do foolish things. But they decided that, and they didn't do foolish things. But on this day, they decided, in order to counteract the over seriousness and the sadness of the day, so these Hasidim decided they're going to do. I don't think that anybody else has ever done that since. I mean, I never heard of anybody doing it, except it's written over here. But nevertheless, they had to do something as an antidote to sadness. So they did this whole trick. So he said, okay, you don't like that. God, you gave the Jews an excuse to be sad, Tisha B'Av, and they don't know how to honor this holiday that you gave us of Tisha B'Av. So take it back. Take back the excuse for being sad. Okay, let's go. And so the Rebbe said, actually, what should we be doing? This is a little bit of what we did yesterday. What should we be doing in these days of Tisha B'Av, the 3 weeks? And remember, the Rebbe is saying this. It was the date was Tisha B'Av, but they didn't fast because it fell out on Shabbat. So the fast was going to be the day afterwards. So the Rebbe said, what should we be doing in all these days, in all these 3 weeks, and all the days of Tisha B'Av? V'hetem l'siyum of Haftorah, like it says in this week's Haftorah that we finished, it says, Tzion b'mishpat tepara v'shaveh b'tzedakah. It says, Zion, Tzion, which means the Jewish people or Jerusalem, will be redeemed with mishpat, judgment. Judgment, that's the Torah. V'shaveh b'tzedakah, and her prisoners with charity. Shemishpat, this is referring to the Torah. Is referring to the Torah. But tzedakah, this is referring to the commandments. Hanichlалot b'mitzvahs tzedakah, which are included in charity. Okay, so first of all, here we got an interesting thing. This is Tisha B'Av is like the ultimate anti-Semitic day. That's the ultimate. That's the day that the anti-Semites should be really, really happy. The Jews were sitting high. They had their holy temple. They were unique people. There was nothing like them. They were all in the land of Israel. They had settled totally the land of Israel. The land of Israel was ruled by Jews. It was ruled by religious Jews. It was ruled by the Torah, and the Jews didn't respect it. And they got allowed, first the Babylonians and then the Romans, to destroy the temple and disperse the Jews. This is like the day that should be the happiest day for the anti-Semites. And that's not it. So what's the antidote? What's the antidote? What's the antidote to anti-Semitism? Here it is. It says, Tzion b'mishpat tepara. Start learning the Torah and doing the commandments. You want to make protests, you want to make marches, you want to make official the petition, you want to appear on television, you want to make explanations, you want to go to the United Nations and plead your case. You want to write the articles in the newspapers and etc. Very nice, but those things are not really going to help. That's just cosmetics on the outside. The reason that people hate us is nothing logical. It's not logical. Maybe there are some people that, they're just swept up in the whole business. But after all the explanations and after all the facts and after all the newspaper articles and after all the political, the maneuvering and etc., there's still people that hate the Jews. After the Holocaust and the pictures of the Holocaust, and there's still Holocaust deniers, and it makes no difference. What's going to help the Jewish people? What's the thing that's going to do the Jewish people? Is forget about trying to make a good impression, or even more, if you want to really make a good impression, then forget about our enemies. Forget about them. Not saying not to have an army. You have to have an army. You have to be ready. They have to see. That's what they understand. But really, the main thing that's going to help the Jewish people is Torah and commandments. Torah and commandments. And the other things you want to do, you can do whatever you want. If you think it's going to help, do it. But you should know that it's not going to help. And what's really going to help is Torah and the commandments. That's what's going to really help. Torah and the commandments. And you could say, I look at the Torah, there's Jews that do Torah and commandments. It doesn't help at all. Of course, there are always excuses. The Torah and the commandments is not automatic. It doesn't fix things up 100%, but it fixes things up 10%, 20%. It does fix things up, and the rest you have to do yourself. We have to increase in these days learning Torah and doing commandments. You put on tefillin. So then put on tzitzis. You put on tzitzis and tefillin already, keep Shabbos. You already keep Shabbos, keep kosher. All those 4 things, do them more carefully. Put a mezuzah on your door. The more commandments you do, the better. You want to have a class? Look, there's so many classes online. Go to your synagogue, local synagogue. I guarantee you'll find a nice rabbi and he'll be teaching. I guarantee you. Right? Nowadays, whatever you happen to be, a Lubavitcher Jew, a Hasidic Jew, you like Breslov, you like Chabad, you like whatever you like, you'll find that there's going to be somebody to teach you Torah. Learn Torah. And especially the charity of giving, the commandment of giving charity. And we can start giving charity even on this Shabbos. The Rebbe is speaking on Shabbos. In a way that's permissible, right? You can pledge charity. Or you can just say good morning to people, right? Be helpful. That's also charity. Allah how much more so Motzi Shabbat on Sunday, Motzi Yom Rishon. That's by the Rebbe. That was the day of the fast day, and all the days after that. That's talking about tzedakah, doing the commandments. Tzedakah, b'mishpat v'shaveh b'tzedakah, with tzedakah. Another thing that's going to redeem the Jewish people is mishpat, Torah, learning the Torah. Hari b'mishpach, continuing what we said before. Kan, here's the place, the orer odapam michadash, she'im chas v'shalom, the Moshiach delays, yamshichu, we should continue b'chayos even more to make siyumim. Let me just say one thing. I want to make a how do you say an explanation. There's a good word for it. An explanation for what I just said. You want to go and learn Torah. Learn Torah from a person who is a God-fearing Jew, a God-fearing Jew, a Jew that does the commandments. Right? Don't learn the Torah even online from Jews that don't keep Shabbat, or they don't believe in the rabbis, or they might have 50 good ideas, and one of them is off base. It can throw the whole. It's like eating a meal and just find one little, fly in your soup. You go to an expensive restaurant, right, and you find one dead fly in your soup, or one, piece of spit on your steak, right? Torah has to be learned from a God-fearing Jew. God-fearing Jew means the Jew really believes in God, and he believes that every word of the Torah, of the rabbis, is true. Every word that the rabbis say is true. It's very, very important. God-fearing Jew, not just a Jew that's doing the Torah because it's our heritage, or it's our custom, or it's our religion, and after all we are Jews, and that might be good, maybe for starts, right? It gets you out of your inactivity. But it's very important that when you learn Torah, okay, you can't take this advice immediately, but take it eventually. It has to be from a Jew that's what's called a God-fearing Jew. That's why we have a kippah. What's the kippah? Why we have a kippah on our head? To remind us that there's something above us that's more real than we are. It's called a yarmulke, yirei malka, fear of the king. Fear is healthy, right? You drive your car, 90% of it is fear. What's fear? You don't drive on the wrong side of the road. You don't drive on the road. It's automatic. But if you don't have that, then it doesn't make any difference what type of car you got or how good a driver you are. You're driving on the wrong side of the road, but you're not afraid to drive on the wrong side of the road. Then you're in big problems. But a Jew that teaches Torah, learns Torah, and he's not afraid to go against what God says. So, okay, he's a Jew, 100%. The person's a Jew, and he's good. Could be the good deeds that he does will put him into heaven. Could be, and etc. But the Torah that he teaches has a flaw. It's flawed. And what's it flawed? That it takes God out of the Torah. It's just a nice book, interesting book, ancient book, true book. But it's taking the fear of God out of it. It's taking the happiness out. Taking the happiness out of the Torah. The happiness is when you feel how valuable and precious the Torah is, and I'm learning it. And if it's just another book, so it's not valuable, what's there to be happy? Okay, says the Rebbe, l'orach siyumim, you should also finish the tractates of the Shas in the 9 days, especially in Shabbat, right? You should finish. We did this yesterday. Every day somebody learns another tractate of the Talmud, and all the days after this until the 15th day of Av, you should continue finishing tractates of the Talmud. Someone in the congregation stands in front of the congregation, and he has finished one tractate, and he says the last few words in the congregation, and then they some people even make parties, it says. And you should connect it to this with charity. They make a meal. There are some places, there's even some Hasidim that they even eat meat in these days. They make a completion of the Shas, and they even eat meat. This should be advertised everywhere, whether in the places where they've already done these siyumim and etc. You have to make it everywhere. Try every day in your synagogue that someone should finish a tractate. of the Siyumim. Okay. What about the 15th day of Av? This is where we got up to yesterday. The 15th day of Av. By us, the 15th day of Av is not this coming Sunday, but the Sunday after. That's the 15th day of Av. Like I say, it's the happiest day of the year, they say. It's a good thing that you should make a big farbringen, a big gathering of Jews, men, women, children, and to say words of Torah. And very good if someone there finishes a tractate of the Talmud. And you should give charity and make good resolutions to add in matters of Torah and the commandments and everything that is good. Because on the 15th day of Av, it falls this year on Friday, and it doesn't this year. That the year the Rebbe was speaking was on Friday. By us, it falls on Sunday. So the Rebbe said you should make the Farbringen on Thursday. Okay. Especially what should be on the 15th day of Av, you should make a gathering together, and it should be with happiness and with a good heart. Right? You people who live near a Chabad house, I guarantee you there's going to be something good there. Call up, ask him. It should be. Why? Because that's what it says in the end of the Mishnayot of Tainit. It says, Lo Yomim Tovim. There was no better days for the Jewish people than the 15th day of Av, and it says in Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur was quiet because people, they were happy, but because they got forgiven. God forgave all their sins, so they were happy. But Tu B'Av was a day that was externally happy also. Until the greatest happiness that there can possibly be, something like the happiness of getting married. We said on the 15th day of Av, that's when they arranged, they met unmarried women with unmarried girls with unmarried men to see whoever wanted, if they thought it was a good match. That was matchmaking day. Something like the happiness of getting married. The 15th day of Av should be something like a wedding day. And that this is attached to the Simchas, the Yom Tov of Tu B'Av, that in it says Banot Yerushalayim. It says that the daughters of Jerusalem, some Yesh Girsa, there's another version that says the daughters of Israel, they go out v'cholod b'koronim, and they danced around in the vineyards, it says. And the men could stand and they would go over to the women and say, let's talk. Ubafran, and especially Alpi Minag Yisrael, the customs of the Jewish people in these days, that we make matches, shiduchim, and chatunas in Yisrael. And especially this is in the 3 weeks, you don't make any weddings. The 3 weeks, where they were commemorating the destruction of the temple that began on Yud Zayin Tammuz and ended 3 weeks later, as we don't make weddings in those days. So now in these days, there's weddings all the time. The days right after Tisha B'Av. So we should make weddings. So the Rebbe said that, but the biggest wedding of all is the wedding between God and the Jewish people. God and the Jewish people. And we should add on that on the 15th day of this year, no, because the Rebbe is talking about how it fell out in that year on Friday, does it? And especially, says the Rebbe, okay, and this will be, how is it going to be? The Moshiach is going to come. There's going to be this big wedding between the God and the Jewish people and all these things. I mean, isn't this in the realm of sort of like fantasy? It says the Rebbe, no. This is this week's Torah portion we're reading. Et Hanan, it's a free gift that God gives us. It's not because anything we deserve, even though if you ask me, we definitely deserve it. But if God would only give the future redemption according to what we deserve, it would be sort of understandable. Even though I can't understand how that's going to be, but nevertheless. And so it's going to be something which is going to be so good and so amazing that it'll put to rest all doubts about the suffering of the Jewish people. And that's what it means, et Hanan. It'll be a free gift. Moshe Rabbeinu would give, and that was what Moses prayed for. 3,300 years ago, he prayed at Hanan, please let me come into the land of Israel with all of the other Jews, the Jews that died in the desert. It says he prayed 515 prayers, and those prayers are for sure going to be answered. And they're ready to be answered. Why they're not answered up to now, we don't know. The Rebbe will say, but nevertheless, we've got a lot to help us. And even then, Moses was asking God for a free gift. He was asking for a free gift, not because of what we deserve. He said, please, Hashem, forget about all these, the inventory and calculations and deciding, do we deserve it, do we not deserve it? Just give a free gift. Well, Befradan, especially that we are now on the 6,000th year, and we're after Chatzot Elef. Right? We've gone into the counting of the 6,000th year. It says Moshiach has to come for sure before the beginning of the 7,000th year. After, and we're past the 500-year mark. In other words, it's more than 6,500 years. Right, we're into the 6,000th year. Says the Rebbe, if so, the Mashiach has to come before the 7,000th year begins. So if so, it's something like in the daytime, it's after midday. Midday, the day is 12 hours long. After midday, it's already tilting toward night. Says the Rebbe, the same thing. It's already tilting toward evening. It's Achrei Akitzin Hashonim, but this is after all of the dates that have already gone by. And it says that there was different rabbis that stood up, and even in Chabad, and they projected when Mashiach is supposed to come. Some said it was supposed to be in Tov Reish Chet in 1928. Some say it was supposed to be, no, is that right? No, that's not right. That's not right. And there's this 1920, just a second. 1808, they said. Some people say it was supposed to be 18, and that was wrong. Yeah, that's right. 1866. Different dates they gave. That's wrong also. That's also wrong. That's not right. That's not right. 18, how to translate this? Here it is. This is going to be in 18. How did I get myself into this? Here we go. This is 1886. There it is, right. Some people said it was 1886. Some people say it was 1806. That's right. I think that's right. Okay. 1886. 1886. This is old. 1788. 1788. Some people say it was 1886. Is that right? Yeah, 1886. There was supposed to be the Mashiach coming until 1 minute. Let's go back. How do we do this? Here we go. Yes. Okay. Different projected dates that were given when Mashiach was supposed to come until the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe said, "La'olter l'tshuva, la'olter gula." Forget about these times. The Mashiach should come immediately. This he said in 1941. Oh, there we go. 41. Oh, so this was this is 1941. So this was 1744. Oh, there we go. 1744. So this is that right? Okay. Anyway, so this is 1941. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe said in 1946, he said Mashiach is going to come immediately as soon as the Jewish people return to God, and then it'll come. And it doesn't have to be all the Jewish people, just the critical mass of Jewish people return to God. And in those, and meanwhile, says the Rebbe, now the Rebbe says that the previous Rebbe said in 1943, and now we're in 1993. One is for sure in those days, if the Rebbe said Mashiach should have come back then, so in these days there's more and more secrets of the Torah, more Chassidut has been revealed. And the connection of the years, this has been more and more until the ideas of Chassidut have spread out to all the corners of the world, even into the furthest corner of the world. And not only that they reached the result, like Hasidim reached there, but the teachings of the ideas of Hasidut have spread out even to those places. So what's the teachings of Hasidut? Essentially that man, every human being is good. Every human being, the world is good. God is infinitely close. The Jews are the sons of God. The purpose of the Jews is to tell the world how much God loves everybody. The world is being created from love. And when a Jew does a commandment, then it brings revealed God in the world. What we do, God reacts to. These are all Hasidic ideas. This is basic Judaism. But Hasidut brought it out to stress how close God is. He's creating everything all the time. And the world is tremendously, infinitely important to God. That this world is more important than the upper worlds, than going to heaven. These are all ideas which are stressed by Hasidut. None of them are new. But they're basic ideas in reality that only Judaism talks about and that Hasidut stresses. But it talks about it in the language of the Rebbe's, infinitely close, and explains all how the worlds, upper worlds, react to every little thing that we do. And explains it in great detail. And how every single sentence in the Torah has a message for us how to improve ourselves in the world. These ideas have reached, says the Rebbe, the whole world. If so, that's all the Moshiach is supposed to come. What's going on? May it be God's will that even before the 15th day of Av, and even before the days before the 15th day of Av, said the Rebbe, immediately, and should already come the redemption. Like a person wakes up, but it doesn't take a long process for a person to wake up. And sometimes there's people that can be in a coma for a year, for 5 years, for 10 years. But when the person wakes up, he just returns to reality. Just returns. Waking up is in 1 second. Says the Rebbe, the whole world is in this coma for 2,000 years. Just should wake up to reality. That's what's called the Geula, the future redemption. And then we'll have the greatest joy of all, the joy which is above any measure, a joy on this that the future redemption has come by means of the Moshiach. The Uviu, this will come by means of Uviu, and we will bring on this a korban toda, a thanksgiving offering, because we went out of, it says, there was the thanksgiving offering they brought in the temple. There's korban toda. And it says there was a nadava that you could bring for any reason. A person could just say, I'm going to bring a sacrifice to the Holy Temple. It's like a person saying, I feel so good, I'm going to put on tefillin today. I'm going to put on another time. Right? You can do it if you want to. You can buy a couple pairs of tefillin, and each time you put on another pair of tefillin, you make a blessing. So let's say I never heard of anybody doing this, but if you wanted to do, you say, I'm so grateful to God, I'm going to put on tefillin for doing it for God. Well, and then there was also another commandment that you could do, and that was bringing a sacrifice to the Holy Temple. It was a commandment. See, you could say, God, you made me feel so good today that I'm going to bring a sacrifice. That's one type. But then there's what's called a korban toda, and this is for 4 things. That if a person went across the sea, and if a person got out of prison, a person was sick, got out of the disease, and what's the 4th one? Anyway, those things. So it says if a person goes, what is it called? Achayim, the word chayim. What is it? It's chole, yam. What is it? Chayim. Anyway, if a person gets out, sometimes I forget things. If a person gets out of prison, then you bring a korban toda. Get out of captivity, right? You were taken prisoner by the Hamas, whatever. You get out as you make a sacrifice. Well, the fact is, we're all in prison. Exile is a big prison, and everyone will get out of prison. hakalali, the general prison of exile. How much more so that every individual should bring a korban because hu a yachid, and going out of prison, not just all the Jewish people, but each and every Jewish person has his own little prison that he has put himself into. And when Moshiach comes, everyone will go out of both the general prison of all the Jews, and because as long as there's one Jew in the world that doesn't know that he's Jewish or what to do as a Jew, so all the Jews are in prison. And in addition to that, every Jew has their own little prison lair that he stuck himself into. Everybody does. So you'll bring two Thanksgiving offerings to God. It says, Lodu Hashem Chazdo. It says, thank God for his kindness and the miracles that he did to people. Kafi Shomim, like it says, before Mincha on Friday, Erev Shabbos. There's a big, long psalm. What is it? Psalm 104. And we say a long psalm. And the four things that all of them are attached to exile. Those are the four things we just said for. Said for. What's it? Go to the sea, get sick, get out of the whole event. Okay. And this is also especially mentioned by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, who really was in prison, and he really was in danger of his life. And when he got out, so instead of bringing an offering to the Holy Temple, there wasn't. So he said, Maimorim, about this topic of going out of prison. So first of all, the Rebbe wants us to know that, in fact, we're in prison. And secondly, that we're going to get out, no doubt about it. And when we do, it's going to be a tremendously happy occasion, tremendously happy. And it's not attached to wars and pestilence and, the retribution of the sinners are going to get it. And no, it's not. That's not going to be that at all, says the Rebbe. I mean, maybe it will be, but that's not the topic of what we're talking about over here. And it certainly is not necessary. There's been enough suffering in the world that there doesn't have to be any more, and retribution and things like that. Every Jew today that is not doing what God wants he has a whole portfolio of really, really solid excuses, really solid, good reasons that any normal judge would say, okay, case dismissed, right? Case dismissed. That's what anybody would do. So any Jew now that's not doing what God wants, you can't hold him guilty. Can't hold him guilty. And in a way, you can say that, listen, it's not a nice thing to say, but God, it's sort of your fault. I mean, you're keeping us in this exile all the time. And you create the whole world. And I mean, it's not a nice thing to say. Maybe it's even a blasphemous thing to say. But Moses said it. Why are you, God? Why are you making the Jews suffer? Why? Okay, so we'll see. So we continue. Says the Rebbe. In any case, all of this has to stop, and it certainly will stop. And that's the whole sign of Tu B'Av, that it is definitely going to be transformed to happiness and good. The whole entire situation of the world, what people think, people's priorities, people this. And also the joy in the even days afterwards, until we are happy with the 15th day and also the big holiday of the 10th day of, which we're going to be transformed to happiness. How is it? What happy day is there before the 10th day? Before the 15th day of? It says in the Midrash, in the Mishnah, that's the happiest day of the year, the 15th day of. But what holidays are before that? Says the Rebbe, all of the fast days are going to be transformed to be happy. It says all the fast days are going to be transformed to be happy. And if you remember, we learned last week that it says that there's going to be such a revelation of God that all of the holidays that we have now, Passover and Shavuot and Sukkot, says they won't be noticeable. The happiness won't be noticeable. So, but there will be noticeable the happiness of these days that have been transformed to good. So the holidays that are going to be made by transforming the fast days are going to be higher than the holidays which come from the Torah. It says they'll be transformed to joy, and all the days afterwards, the tremendous joy with above any sort of measurement that we can't imagine. This is according to what the rabbis say, that there were no better days for the Jewish people, no happier days than the 15th day of Av. This is greater. It says in the Mishnah, the happiest days of the year was the 15th day of Av. Why was it so happy? I mean, Simchas Torah is not happy. It's not a happy day. Yes, it is, but it's not incomparable to Tu B'Av. If so, there was a greater happiness on the 15th day of Av when the sadness of Tisha B'Av was transformed. It's greater than all of the other holidays of the year. Than the 3 holidays that we celebrate. People used to go up to the Holy Temple and be happy. And they would bring up sacrifices to the temple, offerings to the temple. There was a tremendous happiness on the 3 holidays of Passover and Shavuot and Sukkot, but the happiness of Tu B'Av was greater, and the happiness of the future redemption will be even greater than that. Will be greater even than the happiness of Purim, Adalo Yadav Purim, a happiness of Simchat Torah. And all the past years, it'll be something brand new. So that's what's waiting for us. Al derech similarly will be also drawn down. we should make happy forbringings. And even more, it should be happiness which is above any limitation. Like it says, like King David said, that when the Moshiach brings all the Jews back, it says our mouth will be filled with joy, including also the joy of marriage. Like it says, what marriage is going to be? Yishama ba'or Yehuda b'chutzos Yerushalayim kol sason v'kol simcha kol chasan v'kol kala. It says there'll be marriages, regular marriages, but the biggest marriage will be between God, who he's the groom, and the Jewish people that were the bride. Now that's the whole topic of the Song of Songs. Until the happiest great marriage between all the Jewish people and Hashem, and the Gula Mitit Shlema, and the true redemption. Like we said before, this should happen immediately, today, and like we said many, many times, that we've, and how we finished every forbringing, Shesai Mukavar at Kolinim, that this should be finished. All the negative things, it should all be transformed to good, and we'll all be in the holy temple. It'll be standing prepared, and it already is standing and it's prepared up in the upper worlds, and so it will come down into the world. Everything, says the Rebbe, is prepared for this amazing wedding meal that's going to celebrate the marriage of God and the Jewish people. Everything is already ready, and everything is ready, just like it's in a sealed, a treasure chest. And the God says, I'm going to give this treasure chest and the key to it to every single Jew. Here's a present for you. The only thing that what we have to do, Sha'alav Mechakim, that God is waiting for every Jew, Shehudi, a Jew has to yell out, Im od bakasha, one more time, ad matai. The Rebbe explained it so nicely and so beautifully. It's really wonderful, right? How he explained the whole thing. The problem is that do we watch the Rebbe doing this and saying, well, what an amazing person, he really wants the future redemption? Says the Rebbe, that's not what I want. What I want is that you should really want it. Ad matai. There's a lot of videos of the Rebbe, people going by the Rebbe. And one person came by the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, I remember you were here, last time you were here, we talked about this and that. And the man said, Rebbe, the last time I was here, that was 20 years ago. He said, you are amazing. He said to the Rebbe, you are amazing. And said the Rebbe, how does that benefit the world that I'm amazing? He says, you have to be amazing. You have to be amazing. It says, Al Yadei Zeh, by means of this, by means of requesting from God, Ad Mastai. Now, if you don't want to yell out and scream, you don't have to scream. But your heart should be screaming. At least you should say it to God. You want to say it in your private, at a house, whatever. Matai, how long? Another speech that the Rebbe gave, that he said, you have to say, Yechia Melech, long live the king, like they did with King David. When King David was crowned to be the king, so they said, long live the king, Yechia Melech David. May the king live forever and ever. We're coronating the Moshiach. You have to yell out. That's what the Moshiach is missing, a coronation. The people don't want him. If people want the Mashiach, they coronate him, they'll come. That's why you see there's these Chabad people saying Yechi Adonenu Moreno Rabbeinu. They're going crazy, right? The Rebbe said we should do it. Said at least say Ad Mata. How long is it going to be that we're in this exile? How long? They said by means of this, it will bring about that the Mashiach will come right now into the synagogue, and he will take every single Jew that's here and join them to all the rest of the Jewish people and bring them all to our holy land, into the holy city of Jerusalem, into the holy mountain, into the holy temple. And even right now, says the Rebbe, on Shabbat Chazon, we will merit to v'techazena enenu, that we say in our prayers all the time, may our eyes see b'shuv v'chol etzion barachamim, when you return back to the Jewish people in mercy. We're praying for this 3 times a day. But and the main thing is, and that's the main thing, it should be take off of miyad mamash. This is not, should be theoretical or something that's going to be in the future, or when it happens, it'll happen. It's supposed to be something that happens right now, immediately, and we should be tremendously broken and disappointed that Mashiach doesn't come every second. But on the other hand, what does the world accomplish? What does it accomplish? Are being broken and miserable. We have to be happy knowing that any second something really good is going to happen. You can be miserable about the past, but the future is more powerful than the past. The future is hope, and the future is change. And what's in the past is already gone, right? It's there, it's eternal. Everything you did in the past, it's there eternally. No one can take it away from you, but it's not incomparable to the future. The future is where the happiness is, the meaning is. So that's what the Rebbe says. Immediately, Mashiach is supposed to come any instant, right now, right? Listen, the future is really wonderful, but the main thing, we don't have the future. The future is not here. No one knows it's going to be, right? No one knows it's going to be in the future. There were people that, they got hit by a car. They were on the way to get $1 million, whatever. So nobody knows what's going to be in the future. So what do we have? We have what we did in the past, that's for sure. But what we really have is now, right now. And what we do right now is infinitely, infinitely important. And if you look very carefully, you'll see that right now, it sort of doesn't really exist. You can't put your hands on it. Right? What is right now? As soon as you start putting your hands on it, it's already in the past. Right? So forget about putting your hands on it. The main thing is to do. And what do we have to do? We have to do everything that we can right now, immediately, in order to bring Mashiach, make the world a better place, a happier place, and a place which is meaningful and blessed. But we have to have Mashiach now. Ad Masai, how long is it going to be until it happens? So God willing, when we meet on Sunday, everyone will say, Rabbi, it worked. It worked. We did it, and it worked. The whole world is different. And I was thinking about this. I mean, just like we see in the world now, that there's this big thing about, free Palestine and getting this. And the whole thing is like, it's beyond not being logical. It's beyond illogic, right? Doesn't make any sense, right? These people, they don't even know what a Jew is, and they hate all the Jews. And the fact of the matter is, on the other side, they have no proof whatsoever that we're doing some sort of a genocide. Nothing whatsoever. But nevertheless, the whole United Nations and all of these big universities and all these places that are supposed to be intellectual and balanced and things like that, they've all gone mad. They've all gone totally insane. Insane. They have absolutely no basis for all this anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, anti-this. They have no basis for it, right? So this, I think, is showing something that's very good, that people can act and believe in a way that is not based on anything that they see or that they hear. So also in 1 second, everyone can all of a sudden come to say, wow, all these religions are wrong. All of our ideas were wrong. All the ideas in the universities, they were all wrong. We even had a little tiny bit of truth in them, right? People's minds can flip in a second, because as it is now, people's minds are grabbed totally by nothing. And as soon as they realize that it's nothing, they're being held by nothing, Then they'll say, well, what's the alternative to nothing? This is the alternative, reality, the oneness of God, the reality of what Mashiach really is, how important now is, which any second is going to happen. The world will be transformed with Mashiach now.